Welcome to Season 10, Episode 12 of the Ubuntu podcast. In this episode, we're going to discuss uAppExplorer with Brian Douglas. We'll also have some command line love, and we'll go over your feedback. I'm Mark, and joining me this week are Alan.
Hello, you.
And Martin.
Hello again.
So Martin, what have you been doing recently? Been to any hot countries?
No. I've been to a wet, rainy part of the country.
Oh, you must have felt just at home then.
It was, in fact, a lot like home. I went to Linux Fest Northwest 2017.
Oh, where's that then?
Well, that's in Washington State in the US. So I flew into Seattle. And then it's about an hour and a bit drive north of there to get to Bellingham, which is where the event was held at Bellingham Technical College.
Now, there's a popular Linux-based podcast network in Washington State, isn't there?
There is, yes. So Jupiter Broadcasting are based probably about half an hour from Bellingham. And I did spend some time at the Jupiter Broadcasting studio, and I met all of the people that are involved there, including everyone who's involved behind the sines and what have you. So it was really. Did
you steal any useful trade secrets that we can use?
Did I? Actually, no. I could have done much better in that regard, I suppose, couldn't I? I didn't think
Martin.
to do that. Sorry,
letting the team down.
I was too busy thinking about enjoying myself, basically. So yeah, I met Chris and Noah from Jupiter Broadcasting, and I met their wives, ex-wives, and girlfriends.
So you're a real member of the family now.
Yeah. And Alan Jude flew in the same day I did. So driving back from the airport, there was Alan Jude and me in the back, and Chris and Noah at the front. I met Chase, who does Unfilter, and John and Elijah and Adram and Tyler, not that one, and Tyler, yes, that one, and Jed Reynolds and his amazing bicycles. If you go on Google Plus, he's got all sorts of weird and wonderful contraptions.
So enough of the name checks. Tell us about Linux Fest Northwest. What happens there?
It's a really great fest, actually. So in terms of numbers, it was about 1,700 to 2,000 people attended over the weekend, I am told. And it's very much community organised event. So in some respects, people, this is a lot of parallels with OggCamp in many ways. It's not an unconference; it is a scheduled, track. Through the day, there's about 6 tracks running concurrently. Hour-long talks in various lecture rooms around the campus, and they were all rammed. If you didn't get there 20 minutes before a talk,
sounds like get in. FOSDEM sort of setup.
Yeah, not on the scale of FOSDEM, so not as much as FOSDEM, and more than OggCamp. Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And there's an exhibitors hall, and there was probably 30 or so exhibitors in the hall. Including, the distro makers. So the nice touch from the registration table, there were these green dots on the floor. And if you followed the green dots, they took you to OpenStore. And then from OpenStore, there were blue dots on the floor that took you around the exhibition center to Fedora. And then from Fedora, there were orange dots on the floor that took you to Ubuntu. And sadly, there were no red dots that went from Ubuntu to BSD, but BSD were there as well, free BSD. And then there were a number of organizations who we've heard of, but we would never ordinarily get to meet. So sort of Think Penguin, for example, were there. Mm-hmm. They were very interesting to talk to. They're a Linux-friendly device manufacturer. Yep. Everything from routers to refurbished laptops and new laptops and what have you, with modified BIOS and all sorts of things. And they showed me an interesting device, which we'll probably talk about in the later show, but it was an ARM-based laptop in a similar goal as the Fairphone, where it's all modular, so you can pull components out and in the future simply plug some back in. A new board which has got the processors on it and stuff like that.
Cool. Nice. Great. Well, thanks very much for telling us about Linux Fest Northwest. Let's get on with the show.
So after we mentioned last week that Brian Douglas had blogged about an update to the Ubuntu OpenStore for Ubuntu phones, I thought we should get him on the show and have a chat about what that's all about. So hopefully on the line we have Brian Douglas. Hello, Brian.
Hey, yep, I'm here.
Good. Glad that works. Thanks for joining us. So you're one of the many faces behind some of the Ubuntu OpenStore and uAppExplorer and interesting phone-related stuff like that. How did you get started with uAppExplorer, and what are they and what do they do?
Well, I don't remember exactly how I got introduced to Ubuntu Touch, but it was I'm going to assume it's probably through OMG Ubuntu. I mean, that's where I get all my news
plausible.
from.
Yeah.
So do we.
Yeah, so it got introduced, and I kind of wanted to make some apps for it. You know, it's a new evolving technology. I figured might as well get my feet in the door, but I really had no idea what was already existing for the platform, so I needed some way to figure out what was there without actually having a device. So that's when I looked into it, found the Click Store had an API, and then uAppExplorer just kind of evolved around that.
So did you read documentation, look at the API, see there's no store, start creating a store? And that was basically it.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Wow. And so uAppExplorer has become like the web front end, because Canonical basically haven't created a web front end for the store ever since the Click Store existed. So have you seen other people contribute? Have you had a lot of traffic through the site? Has there been a lot of change, or was it just you stood up the site and that was it?
Well, there has been a lot of change. A lot of things have changed. Surprisingly, though, there hasn't been really a whole lot of other people contributing code to it, but I have definitely had a bunch of people that have talked to me about it and suggested improvements or some tweaks that could make things more usable. Because I'm a engineer first and a UI designer very, very later. So I really appreciate all the help people have been giving me for that kind of stuff. So.
All the code for the store is on GitHub, so anyone else could take that and basically run their own store, run their own web front end, right? But
yep.
Nobody has, and there's basically your web front end to the store.
Yep, and I think someone from Canonical a while back alluded to the fact that they hadn't built their own store web front end for the store yet because of uAppExplorer.
Oh,
so
great.
that kind of made me feel good inside.
So is the kind of feedback you've been getting, is that from users looking for apps, or has that been from developers who want to have a better way to showcase their apps?
I think most of the feedback has been from users, but
right.
I think generally our users are usually also developers in this case. So I've seen mostly users, though.
So one of the things that I know, motivated you to do this was discovering apps, being able to see what's already in the store. And with the Click Store, there was a lot of ratings and reviews of the apps that were already there, because there were so few of them. Every app seemed to be rated in some way. There weren't, apps without ratings. What did you do with that data? Because it seems like you have a good presentation of, which are the popular apps. It's very easy for me to go to your site and see what are the popular apps. What do you do with the data that's in the store?
Yeah, I run it through an algorithm. It's I'm probably butchering the name. It's like a Bayesian average or something. The math behind it is a little bit more advanced than I am, but I was able to implement it. So that's kind of where the heart rate. It's similar to the heart rating, but the stars, it's not just an average. You add them all up and then take however many reviews you have. You run it through this algorithm, which basically says, if every app were rated, and this would give you a good approximation of what its rating should be based on everything else in the store. So that's, it's a little complicated, but that is what's going on there.
And so do you basically scrape the store via the API on a periodic basis? Does it have to, how does that work?
Yeah, couple hours. There's some code that will go through, check all of the apps, see if there's been any updates to them, and if there's been updates, it'll obviously publish that on the site, because I basically have the entire Click Store, well, not the apps themselves, but the data for the Click Store saved in uAppExplorer, and then that it allows me to serve it up. I think it's a little bit faster than the Click Store was, which is one of the reasons why I did that. And the other reason, obviously, being so I could do this manipulation of giving better ratings and better discoverability there.
Cool. So as well as having the stuff from the Click Store, you've now also got snaps on there, haven't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was kind of by accident, actually, because the API is the same, so the snaps kind of snuck in there. Because
my question was going to be how much more effort was it then to add a whole new package format? But it sounds like not too much then, if it's just the same API in a different place.
Yeah, it was mostly just letting uAppExplorer be aware that these are snaps and to handle them a tiny bit differently. Now, with things changing, with the current Click Store being deprecated and shut down, I am moving to use a different Snap Store API that they have available that does give a bit more Snap-specific data. So that is something to look forward to in the coming months.
Interesting. And roughly how many people have been using uAppExplorer? Have you got any idea on that and what the trend of usage has been over its history?
I don't have hard facts, but I mean, there is definitely a lot of traffic on the site, and which is kind of cool. I set up Google Analytics so I could see that kind of stuff, and I've been able to see like which apps kind of have been viewed the most, which is a little bit different than the ratings or whatnot, because maybe an app comes out and okay, the views on this app have kind of spiked because it's been publicized and it's new and fresh and exciting and that kind of stuff. So I don't have any hard facts, but the one thing that I have noticed is that it seems like there are a lot of people from Germany on the site. I don't know why that is, but that's just the one thing that sticks out in my mind.
Yeah, like David Hasselhoff, we're big in Germany. There seem to be a significant community in Germany. I know it was some of the phones were sold there, so that might be a product of that, and some of the phones were sold in retail outlets, so it was easier to get hold of devices, and I think that may help, but it's all speculation. It's very difficult to know. I find it interesting, like, that you say that people would find the specific pages for an application. Even now, when I'm browsing around and I see someone mention an app in either the Click or the Snap Store, people link to your site directly to the app page. So it's bizarre that we don't have any other way to, represent an application. I know some apps have home pages and, GitHub pages and stuff, but people generally just link straight to your site. Do you have any idea where that traffic comes from? Is it mostly OMG articles or?
Yeah, I know I've seen some from OMG. I've seen some from like the social media sites, Reddit, Google Plus, that kind of stuff. I have also seen links to my site pop up on the Canonical, I think it's their Insights feed as well. So they were announcing some apps or a contest winners or something like that, and then there was links to uAppExplorer, and I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool.
What's the number one rated or most popular app in the Click and the Snap Store? Do you know?
Last time I checked, the most popular Click was the uTorch application.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think part of that is because he got in early. Yeah, that was a really early app. Mm-hmm. Simon, I think, created that, and so he has a long history. He's installed on basically every phone, which helps a lot. So we've talked about uAppExplorer. There's also the OpenStore, which your blog post was more about. Can you tell us a bit about how the OpenStore came about and what your involvement in that was?
Yeah, so unlike uAppExplorer, the OpenStore, there's actually a couple of us that are working on it. I'm mainly working on the website and the API for that, which is probably why my name comes up, but there are other people behind the scenes with other parts of the app and stuff. But the OpenStore kind of came about, I'm probably going to butcher his name, but Michael Zanetti, I think it's what his
that's
name
right.
is? Yeah. So he basically came up with this idea. We need a way to be able to install unconfined apps that aren't allowed to be in the official store, because getting unconfined apps in there is a huge pain, because you have to get it manually reviewed, and some applications might not even be allowed to be in there. So so he started that actually first, got the app going, got a couple apps available in the open store, and then because of my work on uAppExplorer, he came to me asking if we could get a website and an API and all that stuff built around it. So that's how it kind of came to be for me, from my end.
So I mentioned last week that when I saw your post about an update to the store, I dug out my BQ phone and my BQ tablet, and I already had the OpenStore installed, obviously, because I've played with it before, but I noticed it had a self-update thing, so I could just press update within the app itself. All of that mechanics, was that something you did, or we worked with Michael on, or how did that system come about?
Yeah, it's been a collaboration. I mean, it started out where it was just a static JSON file on a server that the OpenStore checked out, and then it pulled the apps from the server, and it compared the version numbers for the updates and stuff, and then I put on top of that, I changed it to be an API, and then the website where the users can upload their own apps and stuff like that.
So now, if someone wants to upload an app to the OpenStore and make it available to all the millions of Ubuntu Touch users around the world, they can go to your OpenStore, which is what, open.uAppExplorer.com, is it?
Yes.
Right. And they can register and upload any click they want. Do you have any process around it? Any review or any checks and balances, or just anything goes? How does that work?
We do have some checks and balances around that, and that's kind of the reason for that blog post that I posted about the big update to the website and the API. Because before, it was all a manual process. Myself or Michael or someone else had to review these apps, because most of these apps coming in are unconfined. So we would have to manually review them and upload them. And we had discussed a while back about putting an automated review, kind of like how Canonical has with the Click Store now, and being able to sort of open it up more that way. And so with the things changing in the official Click Store, we finally got around to doing it. So if you're uploading an app and you're not an admin user, you will go through and automatically check the click packages for whatever the click review process checks for. If anything comes back a red flag, it'll say, hey, you can't do that. Go talk to someone for a manual review. But as long as it doesn't require a manual review, which now the majority of the apps in the OpenStore don't require manual review now, but as long as it doesn't do that, you can upload it, and then you can check the button to publish it, and then it's out there for the world.
Cool. So you've got a really fast turnaround time. If I made a click and it wasn't unconfined, it will go through the click review and then basically be available to Ubuntu Touch users straight away.
Yeah, it should only take a couple minutes to get it uploaded. And since we pull most of the metadata, like the name of the app and your name and all that kind of data from the app itself, there's not a lot of setup for you to do unless you want to go above and beyond and put like screenshots and stuff like that.
Right.
Cool.
Do you know if anyone has attempted to put anything malicious in the store at all?
I'm not aware.
Okay.
So sorry, Martin. So what does the future hold for uAppExplorer and for the OpenStore, especially regarding the recent announcements of Canonical changing focus? Do you see that you now have a more sort of primary role around the Ubuntu Touch platform, or is it like, stepping back and letting it sort of shuffle off this mortal coil?
Yeah, it does seem like the OpenStore now has a more central role in the future of Ubuntu Touch, because I've been in contact with the guys at uBports, and looks like, I think in the images that they just recently published, that the OpenStore is part of that, and it will continue to be part of that as the official store of uBports.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
And I suppose that the uAppExplorer, as it's got snaps as well, and then it'll still stick around for what snaps are going to be used for elsewhere.
Yeah. uAppExplorer it's sticking around. I'm not getting rid of it that easily. I mentioned earlier I was moving to a more snap-centric role from the canonical store, but I also want to integrate the OpenStore apps in there because uAppExplorer already has some really great search functionality and filtering and all that kind of stuff. And instead of re-implementing all of that in the OpenStore, I think it makes sense to just kind of combine the two a little bit and let uAppExplorer do all the searching and filtering on the apps.
Great.
So if any of our listeners were excited about this and wanted to get involved and help out either with the OpenStore or uAppExplorer, what's the best way to get in contact with you? How should they find you?
If you go to the uAppExplorer website, uAppExplorer.com, there's a link to the FAQs. Down at the bottom, there's a kind of a section on how you can get involved. So there's a link there to GitHub and to, I think, Launchpad for the translations. And if you want to donate monetarily, there's also a link for that there as well. So that's probably the easiest option if anyone wants to get a hold of me. I'm obviously on Telegram in the Ubuntu app developer group and the UBports group, so I lurk around there as well.
Oh, awesome. Well, it's been lovely talking to you. Thanks for, first of all, investing your time and effort in creating uAppExplorer and all the other work you've done on that. And thanks for spending some time to talk to us about it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Cheers,
It's
Brian.
been great.
Thanks, Brian.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
If you love the command line as much as we do, send us a command that will blow our minds, and we might even mention it on the show. Send your command line love to show@ubuntupodcast.org.
And Frank Matthias did precisely that. He sent us his command line love, and he said, I've recently discovered no-ping. Everyone knows the normal ping command, but no-ping has two main advantages over the normal command. It shows a pretty histogram showing when the pings started working again after a reset, for example, and it allows to ping multiple machines at once. So if you want to install no-ping on Ubuntu, it's actually in the oping package. So apt install oping, all one word. I don't know why. And then from the command line, you actually start it just like ping. So you type no ping and then a host, and it will start pinging. Or you can say ping host 1, host 2, host 3, and it will start to ping all of those, and it will keep records of when they timed out, when they failed, when there was packet loss. You get pretty graphs, colorized graphs, and it colorizes the latency. So when it's a sensible latency, it's green, and when it starts to get a bit abnormal, it goes yellow and red. And I really like this. This is terrific.
Nice.
This is just so pretty, like, console thing. This is exactly what this segment is all about, is like useful. I'd never heard of this thing, and I actually have it installed. I didn't know. I have no idea where it came from, but I did I typed no-ping and it started working, and I thought, oh, that's crazy. So I did dpackage -s to find out, which package it came from, thinking, it must be part of some like meta package full of utilities, but nope, oping is what it's done. I don't know when I installed it, but I have it. So, and it's great. It's really pretty.
I think
isn't it?
oping is the project, and it's called no-ping because it's the ncurses interface to the oping library. I think
that
that's
makes
why.
more sense.
Yeah. But if you need to ping multiple hosts, maybe to measure differential latency between different endpoints, this is a great way to display it all in one place rather than having to have multiple terminal opens and MTTR running in different places. And it's very pretty as well.
Yeah.
As pretty as you get from a graph on the command line anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, shut your mouth.
Yeah.
Thank you, Frank, for sending that to us.
There's always room for more feedback. On our website, each episode has its own comments, so post yours on ubuntupodcast.org.
And now it's time for all your wonderful feedback. And first up, John Wesley Preet emailed us at show@ubuntupodcast.org.
Hi guys, you missed a little. HP Inc. will be selling 10S laptops, 4GB dual-core Intel with 64GB SSD for $189. And this is not locked down, so you can put 1604 on it and dual boot right away.
This is Windows 10S, which we spoke about in the last few episodes.
That's quite cheap.
That is quite cheap.
$189.
Yes.
It's remarkably good value. And you don't have to dual boot. You could just install Ubuntu or Fedora OpenSUSE from the Windows Store.
Of course.
D. Scheimer posted a comment on our website.
I would like to formally enter the best guess that is absolutely wrong regarding the show names contest. I think you've invented that contest, haven't you? I at first assumed there were secret clues to treasures around the world using map.what3words.com. I, of course, might be wrong, but faithfully enter the words on the assumption that one day I will find the treasure amid all the purposefully misleading clues. Because I'm assuming you are just being tricky. I really like a lot of podcasts, but Ubuntu Podcast and Linux Voice are still the only ones that give me the same feeling as looking out the window and seeing a dear friend coming up the walk when I see a new one in my feed. Thanks as always. Well, thanks, D. Shimmer. I do like your imagination and you're trying to decode our show titles. Good luck with that. And if you do find treasure, let us know where it is.
Next, Daniel66666 posted a comment on our website.
Considering the recent ransomware hacks in the UK and other countries affecting the NHS and other organisations, I would think now will be an excellent opportunity to dedicate a Welcome to Linux show meant for disenfranchised Windows users. Happened to me over a year ago, and I would think Ubuntu would be the first stop for many new users. Yeah, that's an interesting thought.
We certainly welcome any new listeners who were brought here by unfortunate events on Windows. Get in touch and let us know. And finally, Leo Arias tweeted at Ubuntu Podcast.
Who's reading that then?
El podcast de Ubuntu es el mejor podcast de todos los podcasts del mundo mundial. I think.
And that
He's
means,
from Costa Rica.
That means the Ubuntu Podcast is the best podcast of all the podcasts in the world. Aww.
Thanks, Leo.
That's very kind. Thank you, Leo.
And that's all for episode 12. We'll be back next week when we'll have more news, comment, and discussion.
And maybe a guest presenter.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah.
All right, steady on, chaps. Oh, dear me. Yes. Well, we'll see you all next time.
Yes. Take care of yourselves.
Don't forget to join us in our Telegram channel, ubuntupodcast.org/telegram. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
I can't believe I just waved goodbye at my laptop.
I can't believe I just hit my microphone. That'll need editing out.
raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens, bright copper kettles and woolen mittens, brown paper packages tied up with strings. These are a few of my favorite things. Cream-colored ponies and crisp apple strudels, doorbells and sleigh bells and schnitzel with needles, wild geese that fly with the moon on their wings. These are a few of my favorite